All right, we should be live for the Monday team battle. Rapid Chess representing Alabama again. Starting in about 1 minute. Last night we played Blitz. Today is 10-minute chess. We will be berserking some, of course. And this arena is 90 minutes, so a little bit shorter. It will be fewer games, hopefully higher quality. Memphis will be our main opponent, although Fox Valley is also pretty strong. Denver, if they get their players, is a very strong team. Team Louisiana, when they show up, they typically just bring titled players, basically, and crush us. So we'll see if they show up today. About 20 seconds here. Just wanted to make sure everything was in order before I began. And it looks like we're live. Perfect. But why can't I hear anything? Yeah, I didn't hear the countdown. That was weird. Okay. Need to shrink the board down from the lessons earlier today. And here we go. Don't think we're going to berserk this first one, since the opponent is higher rated than us. We'll play knight f6. French Tarrasch. And we're looking for c5 next. Time control is 10 minutes plus 5-second increment, so the games can be a little bit long. I would probably berserk every game if I wasn't on a team, but I know the team wants to win. So we're going to try and contribute our points. The 5 top scoring players on each team contribute to the team score. It's an early knight b3. Okay, I'll play queen b6. And I've got to play f6 at some point. I'll just play it now. Not as booked up as I should be. If he captures on f6, I'm going to recapture with the knight. Okay, he's moving off the diagonal here. I can open the F file, but then I have to figure out what to do about this knight. C4 closes the queen side, and usually black wants to play on the queen side in these French positions. But I'm never really sure what to do with this rook, because this knight's blocking the bishop. So I could go rook f7 and knight f8. It also guards the e6 square. I'm a little worried about this bishop showing up on h5 then, though, and my rook being trapped. I'm in no hurry to capture on e5, because it doesn't really sufficiently open up this position at the moment. I should probably capture on d4 at some point. So we'll do it now. And at least for this half a turn, we are up a pawn. Okay, he captures back. And I know in some of these positions, I move the queen out to b6, and then I bring it right back. This might be one of those cases. This knight can then go to b6, try and use the c4 square. And then I can play bishop d7 and maybe rook c8. This also further supports f6. Yeah, in this case, there's ideas of just playing f5 and trying to close up the king side. Or I could capture once, and he could take with the f-pawn. Actually, I think we're going to close it. That bishop on d3 is just looking a little bit too threatening for my liking. This knight b4 move, I've played it in similar positions before, and it's just not super useful when the bishop can go back to b1 if this diagonal is still open towards my king side. Now it might be a little more useful just because the bishop goes back and then the position's still a bit closed. Is d4 a little bit weak here? Maybe. I'm going to play knight b4. Relieves a little pressure on the d4 square. But maybe we can make something happen. This knight, I'm not sure where it's needed. His bishop can't come to h5 anymore. So I'm thinking rook f7, then knight f8, and then bishop d7. It's slow, but it should keep everything safe. The knight on f8 guards both the weak e6 square and the h7 square. And while it's a bit of a passive position for that knight, it should help defend everything. Okay, we'll just bring this knight back. Rook e1 seems a little unusual because I don't see how the e file is going to open up. These 10-minute games are a little bit of a weird time control. Okay, so he just wanted to get his knight moving. That makes sense. That makes more sense. All right, need to play bishop d7. The b pawn is not a concern. Play rook c8 and see what we do from there. A passive but solid position. Okay, where's the knight going after that? He might be looking for a g4 push. Let's get this rook active. If everything explodes on the king side and I don't get checkmated, having the c file could be decisive. I'm actually also considering to move my queen back out to one of these squares. Kind of a yo-yo movement for the queen. That seems unusual. Okay. Rook's going there. Yeah, so he is going for g4. Okay, maybe I play my king over. And we have to figure out whose king is going to be in more danger if this all opens up. Knight a5 next. Jump into c4. That seems useful. The big problem with g4 is that it's going to open up that light square diagonal. But at least for now, my knight is on there. Yeah, I'm gonna go knight a5. I'm going to try to say that I don't believe in white's attack. Okay, g4 is expected, and now the choice is, do I capture or not? I think yes. I think we pretty much have to. And then bring my knight in. Knight f6 doesn't scare me. His queen isn't over there yet. This knight's defending well. This rook's in a good spot. Okay, if I move my queen to b6, though, do I run into some problems on g5? Knight g5, bishop takes, pawn takes. So I got a choice here. I can sit here and just huddle and wait to see if they attack and see if it works. Or I can play queen b6, try to do something on the queen side, and have a little bit of a race situation. I think I'm going to go queen b6. In a slow over the board game, I'd probably take more time. I missed that move. Okay, so how do I even stop that? King h8. All right. And I would have calculated and probably not missed that. Now I have to go to h8, and he takes my rook with check, and I go back, and I don't have anything. Yeah, we'll have to look at that. I was pretty happy once I got to play f5, but clearly I didn't deal with g4. It took him a while to set up g4, so maybe I'm supposed to create play elsewhere on the board. Yep, that is exactly what I missed. It took him several moves to set it up, which tells me that I should have time to create play somewhere else or stop his threats, but I have to see knight h6 in order to stop it. Okay, not going to berserk this one either. We got black again. It's a d4 game. Big decision here for him. All right, going with the triangle system. Keeping things solid today. Okay, we'll go e7. Waiting for him to move this bishop so that I can capture and expand on the queen side. Get this bishop developed. Got ideas of a6, c5, kingside castle. We'll play a6 first. And he can't really stop c5 because my bishop covers that square nicely. I didn't look at the team standings. I see a couple of our players berserk their first game and won. Streaks are even more valuable tonight because it's rapid, so there's just going to be less games for each player. But it's such a disadvantage to berserk and then have your opponent of equal or higher rating not berserk back that I'm hesitant to do it. But I'll see how the rest goes. Okay, so he's trying to stop c5 that way. We're going to go ahead and castle, get our king out of the center before we open things up. And then I've got the choice of playing rook c8 or c5 right away. a3 tells me that he wants to play b4, which means if I play rook c8, he can play b4, and it's just not as nice. Because then I've got to play for a5 in some cases, so let's go ahead and make this break while we can. Pawn break means the pawns are attacking each other, breaking up the pawn structure, as I like to think of it. And the c5 break is essential in order for black's pieces to breathe in these sort of positions. Otherwise, this bishop just sits as a pawn for the rest of the game. His bishop backs up. That seems a little bit odd. All right, well, I'll play rook c8 now, since I already got c5 in. Leaving the tension. I don't think I gain anything by capturing at this point. Ideas of maybe jumping into e4 at some point. If you aren't able to play c5, then you have to aim for e5. And with my bishop on e7, I'm just not prepared for an e5 push. At least not at this point. I might play rook e8, then maybe my knight jumps around. But with this h6 move, it really weakens the light squares on the king side. And so there is some limit to where my pieces can go. I've got to be a little bit concerned of my knight ever getting to g6 and ruining the pawn structure. However, with their bishop on e2 instead of d3, that does alleviate some of that pressure on the light squares. I can take back with the rook or the knight. I think the knight's probably stronger. I can also take back with the bishop. It looks like a good square for the knight. I should be happy to trade. Though if I'm going to end my games with 10 minutes on the clock anyway, I might as well berserk. Though I only have 10 minutes on the clock because of the increment. Okay, so he really wants to trade. So I'm looking for ways to create a weak position because it's very symmetrical right now. Knight b3 is an idea. That looks like a nice square. One of the knights to e4 could be strong, going after this bishop. Trading just gives him the file, so I'm in no hurry to do that. Don't want to trade on f3. This bishop, not my best piece at the moment, but lots of potential in the long run. Got to watch out for that e5 square. I also have to watch if there's a rook trade, a rook ending up on one of these squares and forking my bishops. So even though it's symmetrical, there's a surprising amount going on in this position. Could use the d5 square. Okay, so if I go knight b3, he moves his rook. I could take on f3 and then play something like knight to d2. That looks pretty interesting. If I go knight b3 and he plays his rook up, then how do I take advantage of that? By capture on f3? I'm not sure if that really does it. I'm going to try this knight b3 idea. Just because it seems a little awkward for that rook to find another home. So he trades first, okay? And he's just going to keep trading. Oh, he's on my other knight. Got to be careful there. Guess we're going back. Well, I could also take on f3. Capture on f3, bishop takes, I move the knight. Bishop takes, pawn takes, retreat the knight. If I do bishop takes f3, I'm a little concerned about my queenside pawns. So bishop captures, knight d2, bishop b7, and I'm losing a pawn. So looks like we're going back. I'd like to get rid of this bishop so that my dark square bishop can more easily use the dark squares. I'm not sure if d6 or f6 is where it's going to go, which is why I'm thinking of moving the f knight up. Just have to be a little careful that b4 doesn't dislodge this knight guarding it at the right moment. Okay, he moves in that way. Where's that knight going? I don't see where it's going. All right, let's move my knight in. And if I've got a knight on e4, bishop f3 is never a real pin. I don't think. I was going to say I can play the knight back to defend the bishop. But I can't if I haven't gotten rid of this bishop yet. So I might actually have to consider which way I'm capturing here. Yeah, I might have to take with the bishop. Which might have been better anyway. Try and use the d3 square for my knight. And play around this bishop. This might be a fight over whose queenside pawns end up being bigger weaknesses. Pretty happy with this position though. I have not played this player before. I played the other player once before. I mean, I shouldn't be any worse in this position. Which always feels good against the d4 opening. Against d4 openings, I usually feel like if I'm worse, I'm not only worse, but I have no counterplay. Against e4, it always feels like there's a chance to make things dynamic. So knight d3 is one idea. My bishop might sit on d5. Bishop f6 is another idea. Okay, so he goes after my knight right away. So how do I arrange my knight to go after this pawn? Doesn't look like I do. I can go over to a4, which is interesting. He can capture. And how weak are my pawns then? Pretty weak, it seems. But then I've got the bishop pair. If I go back, maybe I can try and use the c4 square. So let's reroute the knight through b6. If I get the c4, we hit the a3 pawn, we hit d2, which could be a useful square. May be incorrect here, but it feels like my king is going to have an easier path into the game as it continues. Don't really have any objective reason for saying that, but it feels that way. My opponent is really taking their time here. So I've talked a lot about how I'm going to go after their queenside pawns. Oh, Alright, I was going to say, do I have to worry about my queenside pawns very much? Not yet, it doesn't seem like. Can I just sit on d3? Seems like a nice square. What's my bishop doing on this square? It is controlling the c6 square from his knight. Gotta figure out what diagonal my bishop wants to be on. If I go to d5, he can play e4 and kick my bishop to the c4 square, which I wanted my knight to be on. If I go here, he kicks it, I go to c4, he plays knight c6, hitting my bishop, I play bishop f6. And again, I feel like I can't be worse there. My knight should be able to rearrange to find another square to go to. Or my bishop can go somewhere else and then the knight can use c4. So knight c6, bishop f6. Grinding endgame here. Bishop f6 anyway. Yeah, it's not like my bishop's doing anything on the e7 square. His knight can't really get to c5 right now anyway. And then I've got to make the decision of whether we want to play knight and bishop versus the two bishops. I don't think so. I also have to be careful that I don't get anything trapped here. So if I go bishop to f1 here, he goes king back. And then maybe I go to d3 instead. Yeah, I guess my bishop doesn't have a terrible number of options here. Oh, he can't go king back because the knight's hanging. Oh. King back, a bishop takes b2. Where I take the knight, takes my bishop. So if he plays king f2, I can take the knight, I can take the pawn. Okay, so he's giving away the pawn. So we're going to be up a pawn now. Where's his bishop going? Do we take the pawn, or do we play knight b6? Or do we take the knight and then take the pawn? If I take the knight, does he have any way to get in? I take the pawn, I'm up a pawn. My concern is if I take the pawn, he plays something like knight c6, or he plays a4. I'm having a little trouble with those queenside pawns. This knight's doing a great job keeping his king out also right now. Alright, I'm going to do it. He was ready for it. And we're going to go after another pawn. Now bring my king in. Got to make sure my bishop doesn't get trapped. He attacks my bishop. I move my bishop. I can always play e5 and retreat my bishop. So maybe I need to get my king more active. So that's an option. Need to make sure my bishop doesn't get in trouble. Knight b6 to support the bishop on that square. I think e5 is the way to go. I want to be able to play e5 so my bishop can come back to the e6 square. At least I'm using my time this game. I guess I can also just hide on the h1 square weirdly. No, because if I go to h1, he can play bishop d1 and trap my bishop. King f8, bishop d6, king e8, king f2. There, my bishop's trapped. So if I go to f8, my bishop gets trapped, it seems like. So I think I've got to actually just play e5 now to make sure I have this e6 square. And the other option was always to go to f1 and then out to c4, but I think that would not be good for me. Uh-oh, running a little low on time now. Might be losing a pawn back, I guess. He goes to b7. Maybe not. Go to b6. His bishop takes, I take. It's opposite colored bishops, which is not ideal. I might have to go for it. Couldn't play f6 there to block his bishop out because of the pin. So it turns out that what I said about his king being further away from the action, completely untrue. My king can get to the d7 square quite quickly, so I'm not worried about him getting a past d-pawn. And if we go into this opposite color bishop endgame, pawns are on the right color squares on the queen side, unless his king is super close. But if my king's on d7, that shouldn't matter. Okay. So we throw in this check. And we keep the pieces on the board. And is everything just going to be coming off? I need to make sure I don't lose this pawn. And now my knight can come back. And my pawn's safe forever. Now I've got to find a way to get my king a little closer. He's got 2 bishops. I've got slightly better pawn structure, maybe. Seems like a passive move for him. I can't go to e7 yet, or I'm going to lose a pawn. Cat was tearing at the carpet there. All right, his king's getting in here. I can come back and defend that, I guess. Yeah, his king's much better placed here. Are we losing a pawn? No, we shouldn't be. Attacking his... Oh, he's attacking that pawn. Maybe we are. Uh-oh. Gotta go after some other pawns. Yeah, maybe we're just down a pawn now. And probably losing this one. His active king paying dividends. Can't really trade here, can I? Unfortunately, the knight checks didn't do anything because his king can stay connected. Check. Okay. Guess we'll go here. But this should be lost now. Unless he blunders. Still lots of places for him to blunder too. Takes the pawn, we get the trade. And if I can get rid of both pawns, that might be something. Down to 7 seconds, so not a lot of time to work with. But knights are tricky. It'd be easier if he was also at 7 seconds. Ah, out of time. Not fast enough. I thought I had enough time to figure something out there. Alright, good game to my opponent. Well, we haven't contributed anything to the team yet, so it might be time to start berserking. And we'll berserk back against Graham. The last few times we played him, we had the black pieces. He's going to play some kind of accelerated. We're going to forget the move. we're going to forget the move here. Then I take the knight. Not sure which way I take the knight. If it takes the bishop, I guess I push my pawn. My king might have to go to f2. But we can't spend a ton of time on this game. Since he is a strong player. And we need to try to get more games in if we're going to score anything tonight. Okay, he's pushing those pawns down the board. I guess we'll queenside castle. His bishop's guarding this square. Alright, I guess I'll go this way. He can take check. I move over. I'm also threatening some things here, kind of. Oh, he pins it. Interesting. Yeah, I guess I am pretty pinned up here. Unfortunately, no kingside attack this game. Tough start. Tough pairings. You will see that we do have that one win against him. That was a good game, if I do say so myself. If I take the pawn, he has rook here. So that's not good. Yeah, I'm very pinned up here. Okay, maybe this square. And try and play Queen c2. Yeah, none of this is going to be good. Triples up with a threat there. I can take here now. Nope, still can't take there. Yeah, I just can't stop any of the threats on c1 and c2. Well played by him. Oh, that was quick. Okay, Berserk. Time to get some points for the team. Wow. Already has 26. I've only played 3 games. Even if I won all of them, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I wouldn't even be participating even if I had won all of them. I really have to berserk because the arena is so short. Oh, that was supposed to be c3. That was a mouse slip. But we'll go with it. I'm just extra controlling d5. Shouldn't really be too bad. This mouse that I have just came in the mail today. So we're getting a little used to it. Surprised that's the first slip we've had. Okay, we are going to push e5 at some point. It says that my opponent has left the game, and now they're back. I probably want to castle before I play e5, before I open the e file. I'd also like e5 to come with some threat on his king. It's kind of interesting with this pawn structure here. I'm not sure I've ever had it. I don't normally play openings that have c4 as part of them. So I move my knight, I move my bishop. Moving the bishop. If d3, then I can move my knight. I'm threatening to win the pawn. Well, I guess if d3, my e pawn's a little sensitive because it cuts off the defense. Got to be a little careful there. Maybe d3, e5, and then I move the knight to e4. Ooh, that sounds better. Let's do that right away. The d6 square looks weak too. Maybe I'll have to mouse flip c4 more often. And then I want to play a3 to kick his knight because I'd like my queen to end up on one of these squares with the threat of my knight going to f6 and the mate on h7. It's the general plan here. And we're out of sweet tea. Okay, kick the knight back. And what square? d3, c2. d3, keep this pawn in place. Not sure the knight really should go to f6 because knight takes, pawn takes g6. Yeah, so he plays g6 right away. Makes sense. So do I go back to d2 and look to get into h6? That looks possible. Okay, let's do that. Queen h6 and knight g5. Another idea. His bishop still isn't developed. And neither of our rooks, really none of the four rooks are playing at all so far this game. And we're not in horrible time pressure, even though we did berserk. So how does he stop this? He brings his knight back. I'm going to play this knight to g5. That way my bishop is covering the f5 square. I guess he could play... I'm not sure. Doesn't play any of it. Guess he can play knight f6 here. Okay, that's his idea. Yeah. So now I was thinking knight to h4. But now we've given up two pawns. I can play bishop e4 at some point, which is important to remember because the knight is stuck on f6 to stop the mate on h7. This would be a great time for one of my rooks to be involved. If I could just teleport one to h3 or something. Okay, his knight goes back. knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, nothing there. F4, pawn takes, rook takes. That looks interesting. All right, let's play F4. Got to open things up. Don't have time to wait for something to happen. Have to make it happen. F5 now. F5, bishop takes, pawn takes. Okay, let's do this. Opening up my rook 2. He says he's trying to trap my queen. That I didn't see. Doesn't matter though. Knight takes, pawn takes. I can save my queen. But at what cost? Yeah, probably just need to save the queen. Maybe rook lift, down to 2 minutes. Knight check doesn't do anything. We're going to have to back the queen up. And then take on g6. Still pressure on h7. Pressure on g6. Really this whole diagonal. Pressure down the f file. I was going to sacrifice a piece anyway, so why not then? So f takes g. And what's the actual threat? Knight takes h7, I guess? I don't really want to take with the pawn on h7 because then I'm kind of giving that king an umbrella. Okay, so pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes, and then threat of rook takes f6. That's the big threat in the position, is the rook coming down and removing the defender of h7. So if he didn't know that was my threat, and he's watching the stream, he now knows. Okay, bishop captures. Now my a rook might be able to also come to the f file. Ideas of knight to f7 in a lot of positions, which also opens up another attack on f6. So knight f7, check. Rook captures. Bishop captures, queen captures. Rook takes f6. Right now there's rook takes f6, rook takes f6, knight f7, rook takes, bishop takes. Okay, we're trying this. Got less than a minute, so hard to figure out if there is a win here. I'm going to claim that I'm not really down material because I've got this rook not playing. And I did get this knight back. Okay. So I'm really not down material right now. Okay, he does go down this line. So I've lost my initial mate threat, but I now have some happy rooks. Okay, rook here. If he moves the bishop, then I'm going to play rook to f7. Oh, and I missed mate. I thought this diagonal was blocked. Okay, what can I do about that here? Queen h3. It's actually a pretty annoying threat. I guess queen h3 and then rook f7. Yeah, for some reason I thought this diagonal was blocked by a pawn. Oh, that was sad. Fortunately, the team is winning without me. Good job, team. Yeah, first, it's berserking all his games. Very nice. Oh, they lost their first game. Okay, on to the next one. We got to berserk if we're going to help the team at all. Also need some revenge against this player. They're up 2.5 and 1.5 in our scores. A win hour, so this will be an exciting one. Yeah, I think we've had several win hours. But for some reason, I think it was some offbeat line after this point. And I got into time pressure a couple of the games. I might be making that up. Yeah, I think this is where they paused before. And I got a good position out of the opening and ran into time issues. I don't think I want the pawn back yet. I can also just take check. And then take the pawn back. Yeah, I don't remember what to do if they don't do what they're supposed to do. Okay, we got to take here. Get into a somewhat normal position. Especially if he takes there. So it's even material. I should have pressure down the C file. My knight can sit on C4. Yeah, C4 looks like a nice place for the knight. I can play E5 in a lot of positions, which is pretty nice. got my pawn back, so the queen trade shouldn't be as detrimental as it sometimes is. And is he going to give away that light squared bishop? He might be. I don't mind that either, because my bishop's going to get the c6 square, and I'm going to have pressure on g2. I need to make a note of which players berserk me back, because that's definitely the issue I've ran into against this player. Is good positions out of the opening, but they play relatively well, and then I get into time pressure, and I'm not able to do much with it. So priority number 1, moving quickly. Okay, I guess we'll make that trade. Oh, this seems nice. Okay. Do I capture? I think yes. I just need to change what my rook's doing. Maybe a5. I gotta be careful of this h-pawn. It may be a runner. He says trade right away. I'm gonna do it and play a5. And see what my king can do. This way, if he plays a4, I can play b4 check, and my pawn is still guarded. Play this check first. The fact that the plays on the queen side is really helpful for me. I think if he just shoved the h-pawn down the board, I was going to be in real trouble. Pushing back further. Ah, I had a fork. That would have been game over, I guess. Well, yeah, would have been game over because he can't sacrifice for it. All right, well, we're going to have to win it again. His king's kind of tied to that pawn, though. Because if his king leaves, I can capture on c3. And there's not really a good way for that knight to defend. Do we just push here? He just goes back. Fair enough. Maybe I had to capture. How do I make progress? Don't know. don't know how to make progress. That's what I was worried about. Yep, and I think it's happened again. So bishop takes a4, knight takes, king over, knight back. I push. His king's far away. All right, let's try this. Actually, these pawns are super fast. Okay, this should be winning for me, in theory. Because I should be getting a second queen. Okay, we run this way, and I'm going to try and hide on the c2 square. Yeah, I thought if he checked here, I'd have to be a little bit more careful. Maybe I could have even taken this pawn. He's trying to avoid all the checks, though. And right now, he has no checks. Let's offer a queen trade, because if he takes this pawn, I can force the queens off. And he still has no other checks. And now, once I queen, I'll be able to block with the queens. Okay, a little bit of a comeback. $50 seconds to checkmate him here. Bring my king down. And without his king able to help the pawns, it should be easy enough. Blockade everything. Check. See if he tries to be sneaky with the g7 push here. Pushing him against the wall. And that's mate. Okay. We got some points. Okay. Got to berserk again. If we want to get any points, we got to berserk. So one nice game so far. Not that I'm terribly unhappy with any of my games, really. Started with some tough opponents. The one game I thought was really nice, and I blundered the maiden one in time pressure. And then that last one, pretty good. Alright, we'll take that. I know in some positions I'm supposed to block with the bishop, but I'm not sure which ones those are. I feel like those are positions where the knight comes back to b6, like it makes some kind of maneuver like that. This pin makes sense, so if he captures here, I can recapture on e5 without any real problems. Okay, I think this trade's fine for me too. Okay, he's just going to back up. This pin seems powerful. Maybe queen d3 to get out of the pin myself. If I take, he has to retake with the pawn. Let's back up. If he continues pushing, I'll go back to c2, and then I'll have queen d3 with tempo if he castles. He'll have bishop to g6, though. Still seems like a strong square. I'm not convinced by anything he's doing on that side of the board. In fact, this might even be interesting, because this knight's pinned. And now both knights are pinned. It feels ripe for tactics. If I take one knight, the other knight can't recapture right now. Yep, he did have that move, but I felt like this was favorable for me. Okay, let's just go back to d3. Maybe d3 wasn't the right square, because I'm still having trouble getting out of this pin. Thought about going to f5 even, with the idea of playing e6. That might have been strong. But if I open the f file, I'll have some problems on f3. Amazing that there are only 18 minutes left in the tournament already. How many games have we played? 3, 4, 5? Let's see. 5 now, I think. Okay, so he gets out of the pin. Look for e6 possibilities. I need to, at some point, get rid of this pin with g4. But I'm just not sure I ever want to trade off my bishop. Queen e2. Yeah, there's no good way. I guess queen e2, and then I can try to move up to e3 or something. Okay, I'll back up here. I'm going to say that him pushing all of these pawns should benefit me. I think I'm in a better position to attack right now. This also makes queen g6 a little bit more challenging, or bishop g6 a little more challenging. Bishop g6, bishop takes. I don't have to worry about f3 quite as much because there's not the pin anymore. I don't think I want to play g4 myself because his queen's lined up for some sacrifices now. Maybe. Although I've got bishop g3 always. So maybe those sacrifices aren't real. Trying to think about all of this on his time since we did Berserk. Queen e2 still seems good with the idea of e6. Trying to get this rook into the game. c7 could be a little weak. Ideas of bringing my bishop back and pushing e6 perhaps. What other candidate moves can we come up with here? I don't think rook b1 makes a lot of sense. Okay, he moved. Queen e6, so he's stopping e6. How can I attack him as a result? All right, let's start with queen e2. And then look for queen e3, just to try and unpin everything. He may just capture on f3 at some point here. Out of sweet tea, but we got some water. Forgot to put ice in it. Time is getting closer to even, although he will always have the increment. We should have time for 1, maybe 2 games after this, depending on how quick the next one is. I guess also depending on how quick this one is. This one could be another 8-10 minutes. So I don't know how to make my opponents go faster. I feel like they were just all slow games. Maybe I just need to win more decisively or lose more decisively. I lost slowly and won slowly. All right, let's take there. If the knight takes, I'm going to back my bishop up. Did he think I wasn't going to capture on g6? What's he thinking about? Oh, okay. He decides to do it that way. Is he going to try and use the f5 square, perhaps? I want to keep my bishop. He's looking to use the c4 square, it looks like. g4, kick his knight back. And we're going to push f4, f5 perhaps. Knight to h4 could be good in some of these positions. But for now, let's do knight d2 to contest the c4 square. I'm down to a little under 3 minutes. Maybe I should put a book under my monitor, give myself a couple extra inches. Okay, guess back to the F file. I feel like I'm looking at a slight downward angle this whole time. Controlling the dark squares. With his choice earlier to take with the F pawn, if everything comes off the board, I do end up with a passed E pawn. So that could be important. Maybe I play f3 and try and double on the f file. f4 pawn takes. Oh, okay, he's jumping in right away. And he takes with the pawn. Not doing a good job guessing which way he's capturing. Let's keep that guy in place. Because I don't see how he gets multiple attackers on h3. I guess we're shifting our focus to the queen side. Not sure who that favors. Just play a4, open that up. He's going to try and open the c file, it looks like. Now I've got a threat of capturing and I'm on the knight. But trying to open the c file and put the knight there might be a little bit conflicting. Because if he doesn't open the c file and puts a knight there, I capture, he has to close the c file. Capture, push the e-pawn. Alright, we'll capture once here. And then push. This looks like it's going to be a little bit crazy. I'm thinking queen to e5 next. His queen's now tied to that knight. Interesting, he chooses that rook. Okay. I'm on some weak pawns. And if I can take the d pawn, then my knight has a great square on the e4 square. Time's getting a little closer. Yep, definitely capturing there. Most definitely. And then defend, I guess. Force him to come up with a way to win the pawn. This pawn's pinned. I should probably play king g2 at some point, or king h1. Okay. We'll push here. And will I be trading the queen for 2 rooks? That'll be the question. Time getting more and more even. Queen here, queen takes, rook takes. Okay, let's get that king out of that pin. I think if I want to play for the win, I got to make this trade. But I may also be playing for the loss here. Or we may be playing for the draw. He can check, I go back, he can push, I capture. I mean, that's going to be a draw. Okay. Unless he finds some crazy way his king gets out of this. But his king could also get checkmated. He's going after this pawn. Oh, I can't go back there. You can take it with check. Yeah, he found a way. Is there any way for me to stop that from happening? Check. Check. Nope, I guess not. My king just has nowhere good to hide. Well, now he can't do it with check. So I guess that's something. Is he going to take a draw? He repeated there a bit. He's thinking about it. Just needs to take that pawn. There's nothing I can do. Well, I guess this is still a little interesting. I'm going to get a pawn here. Still a little work to be done, I guess. That first time when I let him capture this pawn with check, that would have made a big difference. But here, moving the rook to d7 causes little problems. He's down to 40 seconds, so anything could happen there. I take the pawn, he plays check, I step up, he goes there. This position's winning for him, so I'm going to take the draw. Yeah, I think this position's just winning for him, because I can't actually take the c4 pawn. I don't believe. Yeah, minus 62. We'll take that. All right. Go back to the tournament. There's 3 minutes left, so we likely are not going to get another game. But the team is up by 6, so it's really close right now. Which means this top game might really matter. Okay, we're looking at it. And the Alabama player has the black pieces here. And he's down a pawn, but he's up on the clock. And I guess the game's likely not going to matter, because it's probably going to take longer than that. So, go back to the tournament. Are there any other games they're about to finish? Lightning chess, that could matter. Ooh, we're only up by 2 now. Okay, nope. I mean, he's winning, but he doesn't have very long to actually win. Up by 2, and it might be a game further down that makes the difference. Pans are now closed. Well done to Tom, Tejas, Sam, Andy, and Tyler. I'm not sure who that is. I don't think I've met them in person before. And the rest of our team. A very good showing. 27 players from Alabama. And it's tied 127 to 127. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Their average performance is better, so I bet it gives it to them on tie breaks. Less than a minute left. That game's not going to finish. All these games, there's 6 games going on, but I'm not sure any of them are going to matter. We're just going to watch the end of this, because that game's not going to finish. This game's not going to finish. Although it has us ranked above them. I thought the tie breaks would be team performance, but maybe not. I don't actually know what the first tie break is for team battles. Or if it just gives us an actual tie. Okay. Is that it? So our average performance was okay. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is. All right, well, maybe it's total number of points for all the players. I'm not sure. But thanks for stopping by, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Slow start, but some good quality games. And I will be back tomorrow with more. I will probably stream earlier in the day, but then there's also an Alabama Blitz tournament in the evening. So I'll be playing that 9 rounds of 3+2. So perhaps even 2 streams tomorrow. All right. Good luck in your games, and I'll see you next time.